let me add a little bit of spice.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to set up a fishbowl the right way. I'll be using this glass bowl which holds 12 litres or 3 US gallons. The first thing I put in is this large gravel, sloping it up towards the back to help create a sense of depth. I'll be using this dragonstone as the main hardscape in the bowl. All the little holes and cracks in it are great for putting plants into, and it's also inert, which is important in smaller bodies of water like this bowl. After playing around with a few different layouts, I decided on this scape as the best. And then stuck on a few pieces of spiderwood for detail. I'm going to attach the wood to the rock using the super glue so that it doesn't float up once I fill it up with water. Once the super glue sets, it's completely inert, so it's safe to use. Underwater, super glue turns white, so I'm using Java moss to cover it up. At this point, the hardscape was finished and I added a thin layer of decorative sand. Since the bowl is very small, I have to use as many techniques as possible to make it look bigger than it actually is. Using the light coloured sand is one way of doing this, as well as the way I sloped up the gravel towards the back at the start. And also by creating this little pathway through the rocks. Now it's time to bring it to life with some plants. I'll be getting all of the plants from my 20-gallon tank here, including an array of stem plants as well as a load of baby Java ferns that I have growing in this tank. These fast growing stem plants like rotala and limnophila will be really good in the bowl as they'll use the nutrients fast, which is important in a setup with no filter. And Java fern and anubias are epiphyte plants, which means they can just be attached, which is really good with dragonstone since it has all those little holes and cracks in it. Once I had all the Java ferns and anubias attached, I filled the bowl up halfway so I could continue planting. Stem plants don't need to be planted into the substrate as they take their nutrients out of the water column, which means you can just attach them to a weight and drop them in. You might be wondering, how is this bowl going to work if it doesn't have any filter? Filters provide surface area for the beneficial bacteria that keeps the water clean to grow on. But that bacteria also lives on every surface in the fish tank, which means the plants that I took out of my 20-gallon tank and put in here will be covered in the beneficial bacteria already, as well as some of the substrate I put in. On top of that, all of the plants will also be absorbing a lot of nutrients, which will keep the ammonia, nitrate and nitrite right down. Because of this, I was able to add in a small group of ram's horn snails straight away. These are great at eating algae and keeping these kinds of setups clean, and their poo will keep the bacteria alive and growing. In any setup, but especially a no filter one like this, it's important for the first week to do a 50% water change every day. As well as combating algae, it'll keep the ammonia, nitrite and nitrate in the water down to a minimum, which gives the bacteria some time to catch up and start to grow. In small bowls like this, lighting isn't super important. This bowl gets loads of sunlight from the window every day, and I only turn on this cheap LED lamp for about 3 or 4 hours at the end of every day, just for viewing. Finally, after 1 week had passed of doing daily water changes, it was time to get some life into this bowl. First, I'm going to put a small group of cherry shrimp in. These are sensitive to changes in water, so I'm going to drain the same amount of water out of this tank that I took out of the bowl, then put it into the bowl, and then I can put the shrimp straight in without having to acclimate them. These are baby Japanese ricefish. In my last video, I showed you how I hatched and raised them. In Japan, they're commonly kept in small bowls with no filter, just plants. They have a small bioload, so are perfectly suited for this kind of setup. These are just babies, so they'll be completely fine in this bowl until they get a wee bit bigger. Then I can move them into my tank, or eventually out into my pond. When you first add fish to a new setup, there's a risk that they might try and jump out. Just covering the top of the bowl with some cling film or plastic wrap will keep them in. This is also a great solution if you find that your water is evaporating too fast.